Hey everyone, it's Spoonie, and what you're looking at here is all the different comic books that I picked up throughout the year of 2025. As you can see, there's a lot here, including some new Dollarama stuff, so I'm just going to get right into it. So we're going to start off with the Dollarama, or Dollar Store comic books. I've seen some posts online that suggest that America's been getting this in their discount stores since about the end of 2024, so it's trickling down to us. First of all, I want to show you there's a variety of titles. Dawn of DC, Titans by Tom Taylor. This from the 90s, My Adventures of Superman. Batgirl Year 1, really impressive. Superman, Batman, Suicide Squad. You'll notice all first issues. Green Lantern Corps, Aquaman, the New 52. We got some Rebirth stuff here. Wonder Woman Rebirth by Greg Rucka. This is where Tom King came in Batman. This is the Peter Tomasi. This is the Rebirth special leading directly into this issue. That's the only time you're ever going to see like connecting books here. Scott Snyder Justice League. Dawn of DC Road to Injustice. So they're bringing in the video game universe. And then Green Arrow. Now, let me just open one of these up to show you. So, like I said, these are all first issues, and there's a reason for that. They're meant to be little sampler things to sort of get you excited or get you interested in a particular character or series. And with the idea being then you either subscribe to their digital platform in order to access, a lot of their archives, or you just start going out and buying the books. First of all, you see there's not really any ads here. It's a lot thinner because it's really meant, like I said, as an introductory thing. So in the back here, you can see DC Essential Graphic Novels, which are, yeah, pretty good. Blackest Night, Flashpoint are good. Final Crisis good. Crisis good. Kingdom Come good. I don't know if Jeff Johns' Justice League is essential. And then here you can see it's an ad for DC Universe Infinite, which is their online service. I've checked online. I see that there's more than this. There's maybe like 40 titles, including I think there's a Batman Scooby Doo. There's like the first issue of Joker, the Joker War for DC. So it's kind of interesting mix, but it is first issue only. So if you're interested in kind of getting a feel for something, go ahead and pick these up. Okay, so keeping the single issue train going, these next ones are actually from my best friend, Boomer the Nerd. He knows I'm into, I started reading the Scott Snyder Batman run and as much of the tie-ins as possible. I never could find the collected edition of Talon, so he hooked me up with the first six. Or, sorry, first five, yeah. And so hopefully that's like the first arc. If it's good, I definitely will try to either track down the rest of it or maybe I don't know how much is collected, but the ideally the collections would be nice. These are Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV, who did great work on Batman from New 52 through. Snyder did a little bit in the Rebirth era, but Tynion was on Detective Comics, and it seems like it was a really well received run. Next thing, very quick, Free Comic Day VR Troopers, because I kind of like the look of this new series they're coming out with. And then this is something a little more relevant to me, DC All In with Superman Unlimited. I can't wait to get into the Absolute line of books. I love Jason Aaron, so I'm excited for his Superman. And Scott Snyder's Batman, everything I've heard just sounds really cool, so looking forward to that as well. Next up, he sent me 2 issues of DC's Doomsday Clock by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, specifically the second and third issues. I have the softcover paperback that has all 12. The story is really good. I think especially if you're into Superman, you'll enjoy it, especially if you love the lore and history of the DC Universe. I think it's a worthy successful to Watchmen, considering Watchmen is a story that didn't need one. If you haven't read it, I would recommend it. I don't think reading Watchmen first is essential, but I mean, it's a great book and it's worth your time anyways. Here we've got some rapid fire books. Justice League #2. Boomer knows I love Superman, so if he has these extra things around, he tossed it to me. Shadowhawk, I'm not sure why. I do have a fondness for the 90s grim and gritty era of books. This is Superman. This is from when he went into the Bottle of Candor and he fought this guy Prius. And while he was missing, Mr. Majestic from the Wildstorm universe came over and was acting as the Guardian of Metropolis. He stuck around for his own miniseries before he went back to Wildstorm, where he had a really decent ongoing. I did have the hardcover collection of it. I lost it during a move. Devastating loss, because as far as I can tell, they haven't really reprinted it, and trying to get the original trade or hardcover is expensive, so I might just have to get the other couple issues in singles to sort of have the collected story. Okay, so next up I've got the complete New 52 series of Blackhawks. The Blackhawks have always been kind of an interesting concept, pre Flashpoint, pre New 52. Kind of just like they were concept born from World War II, right? Because people were interested in soldiers going on missions and stuff like that, elite pilots and whatnot. They re-envision them in the New 52 more as sort of counterterrorism organization. So there's the second issue. The third. Something I really liked about this that I didn't really know about when New 52 was kicking off. Like, I'm a huge Wildstorm fan, and I was pretty devastated, much like the Wildstorm Earth, when they killed the line and folded it into DC, because I felt like at the beginning they really wasted a lot of those characters. But in one of these books, and here's the final issue, in one of these books, they explain that the Blackhawks are set up to defend against like advanced technology, but they have a sister organization called the Black Razors who are set up to defend against extraterrestrial technology. So the Black Razors were an elite group from International Operations, IO from the Wildstorm universe. And final two issues, we've got Batwing here. I love Judd Winnick. I never got around to reading this story. I know this is the other guy, and at some point, was it Lucas Fox Jr. becomes Batwing or something like that? I've read some of that through, I think, Batman Eternal, and I like the character, but I've never read this guy because I never ended up reading the Batman Incorporated, which is where I believe he debuted. This is the Batman of Africa. And finally, the last single issue from Boomer, and the last in general, is you can see Green Lantern's New Guardians #1. I have this in the full hardcover, the first one. It's an interesting story. I never got to finish Kyle's journey in New 52. I kind of just read to the end of Jeff Johns and stopped. Although I hear the Venditti stuff is good, and a lot of other good stuff about after he left the series. Okay, so now we're getting into the mountain of books. I'm going to start first with because they're on the top and it's easier to move, these DC Compact Comics. Okay, so as you can see here, I have the DC Compact comic line and quite a few of them. They started in 2024. I didn't find out about them till 2025, so that's where I started my collection. I've got most of them. I'm going to try to finish off the ones that came out in 2025 before I go to the 2026. First of all, I want to say that the first wave of books actually had the old printing, like the first printings had the old logo, I should say. Whereas I think starting the second run and on, they went back to the DC Bullet logo. And so this is Catwoman, Trail of the Catwoman, Darwin Cook, Ed Brubaker, fantastic story. This is probably the single greatest redesign of a character in comics history. Like the suit, the kind of new direction and personality they gave her, iconic. aside from some kind of retro stuff, I don't see them ever going back to the old Catwoman. Anyways, the story's really good. This is something I hope they continue at least the rest of Brubaker's run on the book, because it is quite good. And as you can see, they're just showing you other books, other Catwoman books, other Brubaker books, and then just other compact books. Now, the early editions of these actually told you what issues on the back. So this has Catwoman Selina's Big Score, and then Catwoman 1 through 9. Selina's Big Score is so Catwoman was supposed to have died at the end of her previous solo series. Selina's Big Score shows where she was when she faked her death, and then coming back, Catwoman 1 through 9. Another thing you can do if you're ever not sure what's collected is at the beginning, all that library index information, they will tell you on there. Yeah, I'm too shaky. It says Detective Comics 759 through 762. I guess that's where Big Score originally was printed. American Vampire Book 1. I've gone through this already. I had the first bunch of issues. Rather, it was cheaper to get this than buy the second bunch of issues. It's one of the few books in their horror line. So I want to support it for that reason alone. It is book 1. They haven't solicited book 2. Is it going to be like those Dollarama books where this is just a teaser and you got to buy the rest? Maybe this one didn't sell well enough, but the fact is none of the books have had like sort of sequel books solicited yet, so who the hell knows? Watchmen. This is insane. Look how thick this one is. You get the whole Watchmen, and okay, so I have a copy of Watchmen from, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s. In 2005, when DC Wildstorm released their Absolute Watchmen, and if you're not aware, the Absolute format is like, it's bigger than an omnibus. It's like coffee table book size thing. Anyways, in 2005, when they released the omnibus, they brought back the original colorist and got him to, using digital coloring techniques and stuff, sort of redo the series. So, like, this looks brand new to me. This scene in the original, it's pretty much just kind of like orange, red, yellow, brown. So it almost looks like a new book. I do love the story, so yeah, I will read this, and if anybody's interested, I can also do a bit of a review on it, comparing the previous edition to this one. More thrillers, more thrillers. Yeah, this is what it's a thriller. I would say that's an accurate label. Batman Court of Owls, Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo. I've sort of talked about this before. First of all, story-wise, fantastic story. Even as it was coming out, like, you could tell this is like a new Batman classic. So like I talked about, some of the detail gets lost with Greg Capullo's artwork. I think the line work is just too fine. Shrinking it down in scale, you do lose some of it. Now the story is great. The art, for the most part, is fantastic. Maybe I'm just being a complainer when I'm picking out these little things. Obviously, if you haven't read this before, you will have zero complaints, especially since the story is such a banger. Now again, you'll see I've got the current DC logo, the DC bullet. Now, if you look at the beginning, this is actually like the fourth printing of it. Now, I have seen a review that's covering, I guess, the first edition of this book, and it is a little bit different.
And as we covered in our last video, the only extras you get are ads for more compact comics. So definitely nothing in the way of extras.
Okay, so that has to be the first printing, because he said no special features, but in this one, maybe in response to complaints like his and other people, they do recreate all of the variant covers. So this first one here, by Ethan Van Sciver, so he gets paid for this. That's cool. Batman Variant 2 by Jim Lee. Batman Variant 3 by Ivan Reis. Batman 4 by Mike Choi. Batman 5 by Chris Burnham. And Batman 6 by Gary Frank. So this later printing does have special features. I don't think they're enough where if you already own this, you're going to go out and rebuy it just to get, what, an extra 4 pages? 3.5 pages? But for anybody who doesn't have it, obviously, that's a cool little bonus. Now, if you've read this story and you kind of see it there, there's a very famous issue in the run, issue number 5. So Batman is lost in a maze, you can kind of see here. And he's down there for weeks. You can see like they're shining the signal, where's Batman? He's not coming. So Batman's been sort of a prisoner of the Court of Owls for weeks. He's been wandering around in this maze with no exit. The only water there has been drugged with hallucinogenics, and he's kind of aware of it, but he can't help it. So as he starts to hallucinate, the book starts to change. It starts to, at some point, you can see at some point you have to start reading it horizontally, and then at some point it just completely flips upside down. So for the most part, this works really well. Maybe the digest size makes it a little bit easier to flip over. But, and this is a big one, you get some gutter loss there. So gutter loss is when you have the binding of the book, and usually it's just artwork, but it's bad when it's dialogue like this. It gets kind of lost in what they call the gutters in the binding. And again, you can pry it open, but I don't know if you care about your spines, keeping those nice and pristine. You could be cracking them, which I know some people say you should do. Some people say you don't have to. I don't care. Yeah, so this has the first 11 issues of Batman. Does not contain Batman Annual Number 1, which is a direct tie-in involving Mr. Freeze. Nor does it contain any other Bat Family tie-in books. Next is Batwoman Elegy, Greg Rucka, J.H. Williams. I talked about this when I kind of opened a previous box on it. The artwork on this is fantastic. The non-traditional panel layouts, so the way the layouts change the way you read the story and also kind of change sort of how you feel about certain situations. It's a really cool technique. I haven't seen it very often. I think it's difficult for a lot of writers and artists to kind of figure out how to work together to achieve something like this, but absolutely beautiful. Now, with this second line of books, the ones that came out in 2025, they stopped printing on the back what it contains. I'm guessing that's because they thought maybe if people see, oh, it's got issue 700 or whatever, they wouldn't want to check it out. But again, inside cover says Detective Comics 854 through 863. I haven't read this one personally. I've read the Hydrology. I read basically the New 52 Batman onward, but not familiar with the pre-Flashpoint. Superman and Batman. So it's divided in half. The first half is story about, okay, it's called Superman Batman for a reason, especially in this volume. They're all basically Superman stories that involve Batman. So the first one, you can see Ed McGuinness, got the kind of nice cartoony art, worked a lot with series writer Jeff Loeb to reinvent Superman in the early 2000s. Now, the second half of the book is Jeff Loeb teaming up with the late, great Michael Turner to deliver some fantastic artwork about the return of the true Supergirl. Supergirl had not been, like the official Kara Zor-El, had not been seen in comics since she died in 1985. Was that issue 7 of Crisis on Infinite Earths? So, after a long time, Kara's ship crashes to Earth. She's a blank slate. Everybody's trying to get their hands on her. Darkseid gets to her first. He wants to create his own superpowered Kryptonian that's loyal to him. And her purpose for coming was originally she was older and she was supposed to protect her younger cousin. But due to whatever time nonsense, he got here first, grew up, and now she shows up and she has no real purpose. So she's got to find a life for herself and figure out what she wants. So that's kind of an interesting direction for the character. And ultimately, she settles on Themyscira. She ends up training with the Amazons. So, imagine Superman, but with like actual training. It doesn't just have to rely on his strength. Um, I think they've stated that she is stronger than Superman, but not maybe as disciplined. Anyways, this is a fun read. I definitely recommend picking it up if you just want some traditional superhero adventures without a lot of darkness or complication. Harley Quinn and the Gotham City Sirens by Paul Dini, who's an amazing Batman scribe, came from Batman the Animated Series, and Guillaume March, who does gorgeous women illustrations. He did the New 52 Catwoman. I don't know if you guys have seen that. He draws very sexy women. I don't think it's over the top cheesecake. He's not like Adam Hughes, but um, this has a cool story behind it. So during around the Final Crisis time when Batman was dying or whatever, and there's a storyline where Hush cut her from the Jim Lee. Hush and that. So Hush had cut out her heart, and they were keeping her alive on machines. They ended up saving her. She got her heart back, and sort of as revenge, she took Hush's, because Hush is from a wealthy family akin to the like the Waynes. So she tapped into his bank account, drained all her money, all his money, I should say, and she gave it to Harley and Ivy. And she said, "You know what? Go clean. There's no reason we have to do this anymore. We're all women. Let's stick together." Like, now, of course, these two, they can't resist the temptation to do other stuff. And so she gets kind of drawn back in. It's kind of like Gail Simone on Birds of Prey, but with more anti hero characters. Now, again, I said the art's very good. What's notable in here is this is really where you start to see the origins of the official origins of the Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy relationship. It was teased at in Batman the Animated Series, but this is the point where, at the very least, this is the series where Harley decides she's done with the Joker. It's just too much nonsense. The guy's abusive. I don't think they go into that much detail talking about, the levels of abuse and stuff, but just she deserves better, and she's got these friends, and they're all going to help each other. Fun book. A little more serious than the Superman Batman one. It originally was just called Gotham City Sirens. Obviously, Harley Quinn has exploded in the many years since this series first came out, so it's branded with her as the prominent character. And that's all you really need to know. It is a fun book. So here we are going back, Batman Hush, as I showed you just a second ago. Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, great art. I think the art holds up. And first of all, Jim Lee does his painting in here, which I don't think he does enough in general. And I think it looks awesome. I remember him doing this stuff on Deathblow in the 90s, back when Wildstorm was still Image. So his art holds up very well, even scaled down. It's detailed, but it's not busy, if that makes sense. And this run is significant for several reasons. Obviously, it's a really cool story with some incredible art. But, okay, so this is written by Jeff Loeb. As I said with the Superman and Batman, Jeff Loeb, along with some other writers, Joe Kelly and some other writers, revitalized Superman in the early 2000s. After the death of Superman and the Electric Superman storyline, they needed to revitalize the franchise. So they brought these guys in and they really put the action back in Action Comics. After that, they went over to the Bat books. At the time, Chuck Dixon was writing like I think 90% of them. He was writing what Robin, Birds of Prey, and Nightwing, I think. So just Batman and Detective were the only ones he wasn't touching. So they wanted to consolidate everything, bring Jeff Loeb on, and kind of like he did with Superman, condense everything to the essence of what they want. So you'll actually see in here they do have the revamped Catwoman design, which then places the Catwoman series before this one uh, chronologically. But it's about sort of reestablishing the people in his life, who his allies are. There's that gorgeous Jim Lee painting. Who his allies are, who his enemies are. Really consolidating all the books. This is where actually a number of the people in the Bat family first are introduced to Oracle, who was the former Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, who was shot and paralyzed by the Joker, and she became kind of like the information source for the hero community. If you needed help, if you needed information, she was there and she could give you that. And probably the biggest thing, besides corralling all the Bat books into central focus, was this is where Bruce Wayne reveals his identity to Catwoman. You know, he tells her he is Batman. This is kind of since Crisis on Infinite Earth, since all that pre-80s stuff was discontinued, the first official time that we've seen Batman and Catwoman actually be romantic together. Like they kiss, and ultimately, you know, she leaves him because he's too in love with his secrets and whatever. But it's a good collection, and so I have the first two softcover trades of this, but this collects so much more. So first of all, what does it say? Okay, so it has the normal issues of Batman 608 to 619, and it has the Wizard Zero. Now, Wizard Zero was, I don't know if anybody remembers Wizard Magazine. They did a lot of half issues and ashcan editions and number zero issues. Okay, so there's a part where I think Batman gets really banged up fighting Poison Ivy, and the Wizard Zero is an interlude in the Batcave where it's pretty much just Catwoman talking to Alfred as he patches up Bruce. You know, it adds more character development, so that's a great thing. I've never read this Wizard Zero before. Yeah, I'd highly recommend this. And if you guys want, I can cover this in a little more depth with the comparison to the other books. Next up, Wonder Woman Earth 1, Grant Morrison, Yannick Paquette, and much like Blackman on the Batwoman book, Paquette delivers not just, I think his figures look great, but the layouts, man, look at this. Gorgeous. It adds so much to it adds so much flavor and context, just the design of the layouts of the panels, what the lasso is actually the border. Um, you know, if there's a proper name for this technique, I would love to hear it. Now, I did read the first volume of this because these were original graphic novels. There's Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, and Teen Titans. This one had three. I have the first one, but again, with these cover prices, $10 American, $13.50 Canadian, this was so much cheaper than just tracking down the next two volumes. Batman The Long Halloween, and you'll notice there's Jeff Loeb's name again. This is the third book I've got with him on it, the second Batman book, and there's a reason for this. Jeff, this is one of the better Batman stories ever written. This is Okay, so there's like the Batman that fights like supervillains and stuff, like with the Justice League and whatnot. But then there's also like the Master Detective Batman, and this is more along that. This is more of a crime story. It does feature some of his villains, like Two-Face, for instance, but not in significant roles to the plot. It really is more about sort of the Gotham underworld, the crime bosses. I have never read this as a full novel. I've read a digital copy of it, and I have seen the animated adaptation, and it's pretty good. But I am definitely excited to sink my teeth into this one because not just this, but anytime you see these two names, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, they're going to deliver on something good. They did. Sorry, I'm getting the colors mixed up. It was like Spider-Man blue, Hulk gray, Captain America white for Marvel, and then obviously they did this. They did a couple other Batman series. They did Superman for all seasons. Just really good collaborators. Here we've got Kingdom Come, which is from, I think, 95. It is kind of, yeah, I would say it's a must read if you're into superheroes and everything, because this is kind of one of the first stories where they really kind of focused on maybe the dark side of superheroes. If you'll bear with me for a moment, like if you like The Boys and that kind of stuff, you might enjoy this. The premise is that something happens, Superman's in a fight, something happens, a lot of people die, and he decides, you know what, I can't be responsible. This is too much for me to bear the responsibility of the human race to just bail them out. So he steps aside. What happens is this new generation of heroes picks up in his place, and they have no issues with killing or because they feel the ends achieve the means. So what happens is Superman has to pick up his cape, and that's why he's got the black shield. Um, Superman has to basically go out and spank all these kids, and first of all, Alex Ross. Now the guy's done different styles throughout the year. Most famous for his painting. This is all painted. Like I'm pretty sure he'll sketch it out, but everything here is painted. So first of all, it looks awesome. Second of all, it's written by Mark Waid, who is a very good comic book writer. I was told to stay away from his Twitter account, but um, his Fantastic Four was awesome. His Hulk. He's got a lot of good runs under his belt, and I think as long as you don't talk about anything other than comics book with him, you'll be okay. Here we have another Vertigo series, like the previous one was The American Vampire. This is Why the Last Man. Brian K. Vaughan with Pia Guerra on art. Um, this was adapted into a TV show on what network? I don't know. And I think it ended after one season. The premise behind this guy's name is Yorick, and his monkey Ampersand. And so Yorick, he's Y the last man, but also because men have the Y chromosome. So basically, wakes up one day, everybody with the Y chromosome, except for him, is dead. So he has to travel across this new America, trying to find his mom, trying to find his sister, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. He is the last man, so in a sense, that's very dangerous. I mean, there are women who are going to want him because he is the last man. And then there are also women who feel like the death of men was like a sign from God, and so they should kill any men they find. So, a really interesting story. This is the first two trades. Oh, yeah, they don't tell you what issues anymore. Um, it is issues 1 through 10. That being said, I think there's 60 issues in this, so in theory, there should be 5 more of these. But like with American Vampire, and actually like Harley Quinn, they have not solicited another volume. This only needs one more volume to complete the run, so I really would like to see that. And then Why the Last Man is a great series. I would love to see that too. Authority Relentless. Here we're getting into Wildstorm stuff. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, so I feel like they are kind of doing a disservice by this release, but at the same time, I think it's awesome. So I have the first two soft covers of what collects this story, but this story actually has a little bit more. So this collects the Authority 1 through 12, the Planetary, the Authority Ruling the World crossover, and in book form, Wildstorm: A Celebration of 25 Years, and Stories from Absolute Authority Volume 1. So the one I have, I believe it's just 1 through 12, and it might have the planetary. No, actually, I don't think it does. I'll check on that. But it's really just issues 1 through 12. Definitely the Absolute story, the 25 years story that's not in here. So this is, first of all, this is what the very first, what they used to call like widescreen comics. Uh, the artist here, Brian Hitch, actually went over to Marvel to help create the Ultimates, which was the Ultimate Universe version of the Avengers. Very same concept, like large scale grand battles and stuff, like something you'd see on a movie screen. And then, of course, because you've got Warren Ellis, you've got some great writing and a little humor in there too. Now, this team is actually a spin off of another Wildstorm team called Stormwatch. This actually was Stormwatch Black until they were betrayed by the guy who created Stormwatch and were destroyed in a really, really cool crossover between um, the Wildstorm universe and the Aliens property. Now, it was collected in the first softcover, but it's not been collected anywhere since the they call it Wildcats Aliens, even though it's Stormwatch and not Wildcats. So basically, they get betrayed. The aliens blow up their base, and so Stormwatch Black, which was their secret Black Ops group that like nobody knew about, they become active and they decide, you know what, the world needs guidance. And clearly, Stormwatch, it was a flawed organization. It was infiltrated by somebody who was self motivated. So they declare themselves the authority and said, we're going to police this planet and give it what it needs, like in a good way. All Star Superman, I have this in single issues. Frank Quitely's art, while detailed, does scale down quite nicely. I never found there were any panels or pages where the art would look busy or overly detailed. Some people will tell you this is the single greatest story you should read. If you don't really know Superman, you want to get an idea of what he's about. I don't think that's a bad idea. I have heard a lot of people say Tom King's Up and Away is like hands down even better than this. I've yet to read it. It's kind of like the last days of Superman. Superman realizes that he was exposed to some crazy radiation that's going to kill him. And so it's kind of all the things he wanted to sort of see before he died. And he doesn't really die. He kind of goes into the heart of the sun. And this actually ends up connecting to, he stays in the sun. And this connects to Grant Morrison's DC 1 million fifth week event because at that point, this is when Superman fully charged comes out of the sun. So, you know, I like the book. I'm a huge Superman fan, but I do think this book has been talked about to death. Like, it's a good Superman story. It's self contained, and it gives you a great idea of why people like the character. Check it out. Okay, next up is Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermeo's Joker. This was originally released as an original graphic novel. I just want to show you something. This is the first printing, by the way, so they may change this for future printings. Look how anemic that is, especially compared to Watchmen. And they're both the same price, right? $10 or $13.50, depending on which country you're in. That's not good. Now, this doesn't just collect Joker, it does collect another series by the two creators that originally appeared in the Joker 80th Anniversary 100 page Super Spectacular #1. And So the main story, lots of great art. This was actually a follow-up to a miniseries they did called Lex Luthor. It was a 5-issue miniseries that actually came out. Um, and I guess the strength of that, okay, let's handle Batman's greatest villain, but they did it as an original graphic novel, which is very cool. And the main character in this, the story is basically about some low-level thug who ends up becoming the Joker's best friend, and then realizes over time why the Joker doesn't have any friends. And here I said, like, the backup Joker tale, which is cool because I never read that. But as my friend Boomer pointed out, this isn't enough. What they should have done, first of all, if they're going to do a Batman themed Azzarello and Bermeo team up, they should have included Batman Damned in there. I think they've done a Harley Quinn and some other crap, but they should have had this in there. Yeah, they can censor it. I don't need to see Batman's dick. That's okay. Or, um, like Boomer said, they should have had Lex Luthor in here as well. They call it Joker and Luthor or World's Finest Villains. I don't know. I'm happy to have it in the collection. I do have the original original graphic novel. But like I said, the price on this compared to a lot of the other books, like, god damn. Here we have Deceased, which is, as of right now, the only, besides American Vampire, the only other book in the horror category. I've never read this before. I'm aware basically it's like Marvel Zombies, but with DC. I've heard the point of view character is Lois Lane, which I think is awesome, not just because I love Superman, but like the perspective of a journalist, like chronicling what's going on. Tom Taylor's a really good writer, and the art looks pretty good. Like I said, I know nothing about this aside from there were a lot of tie-ins and such. They cover some of them here, right? Dead Planet and Unkillables, War of the Undead Gods. So this, again, I have to check the front. This collects the full Deceased issues 1 through 6 miniseries, but it also carries the Deceased A Good Day to Die #1 special. I don't know if they're mapped out in order or if it's just like they have the 6 issues and then they have the special. That's something I could tell you about more once I read it. Static Season 1 by Vita Ayala. I've heard mixed things about her, but Reginald Hudlin's great writer. I loved his Black Panther run, and I love the character of Static. Now, this is since he's been fully kind of, I guess we'll say, owned by DC. They incorporated Milestone Comics, which is where he was originally from. Milestone was a comic book publisher created for and to highlight black talent in comic books. So everything there was black creator written and drawn. And, you know, first of all, you had some great art by like Dennis Cowan and some other fantastic artists, but it was also really cool to get a different perspective, a different voice. So I don't know much about this whatsoever. They call it Season 1. I believe I saw there is actually a Season 2. This, I'm not sure. It's just Season 1, 1 through 6. So I'm mildly familiar with the Wildstorm universe, mostly from their original. Was it Worlds Collide? No, that was the second one. Whatever their first crossover into the DC universe was, I'm more familiar with that. And then, of course, the Static Shock TV show, which, honestly, if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out. It does end up tying into Justice League Unlimited in the last season, so that might be worth your interest. Batman Arkham Asylum, The Legend. Grant Morrison with painted Dave McKean artwork. Now let me just check what this. Yeah, so it has Batman Arkham Asylum, which was an original graphic novel, It has content from Batman Arkham Asylum 25th Anniversary Deluxe Edition, Absolute Batman Arkham Asylum 30th Anniversary Edition. So it's like every couple of years when they reprint this, they keep adding more stuff. I believe I'll just jump to the end. The stuff they're adding in is just extra sketches they found. So you can see he sketched it out and then painted over top of everything. Here's basically the other stuff. These are the covers for like the Absolute Edition for like, apparently that's a clay thing he used as a photo reference for painting. Yeah, just covers from like the Anniversary Edition books. Now, this is a great shame for me. I've never actually read this Batman story before. Like, I'm not a huge Batman fan, but this is such a pivotal, iconic story for the character. The fact that I haven't read it, it's kind of embarrassing. Now, I've read summaries, Wikipedia, I've talked to people. I know what happens, but I've never actually read this myself. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. Again, maybe a little bit skinny, but this is iconic for a reason, I guess, and I think it'll probably still be better value than that Joker book. And the final DC Compact series is Far Sector. This is a Green Lantern book. This was originally part of Gerard Way's Young Animal imprint, but became so successful that I understand they've incorporated this character into the mainstream DC universe, which means Earth now has like 9 Earth-based, or DC has 9 Earth-based Green Lanterns or something. Um, N.K. Jemisin, she is apparently a very popular science fiction writer. Don't know any of her stuff. The art is cool. It takes a little getting used to. I read the first issue, and actually, the story for that matter kind of takes a second to get into. But by the end of the first issue, I could tell this was a really good series, and I can see why it's the most successful thing from the Young Animal. So excited to read this, and I'm wondering about where her place in the main DC universe is. These next two books I actually found at a pawn shop. They were $10 each, so $20, which was a great deal. So first one, DC Meets Hanna-Barbera, Volume 2. I do have the first volume. Apparently there's a Volume 3. I love the concept of it. I haven't read it yet, but Hong Kong Phooey and Black Lightning in the 70s, how could you go wrong? That looks like some Brett Booth art there with the Flash. I love the concept of it. I love the first volume. It's Jabberjaw and Aquaman. That's great. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. As you can see, $9.99. And okay, where is it? I can tell you 100% based off the size of the adhesive square. They got this at the dollar store. How do I know? I got volume 1 at the dollar store. So the pawn shop did make a little bit of money off this, but it's still a good deal for me, especially considering the other one I got, which is DC's Archive Edition, Superman Volume 7. Now, this isn't the Action Comics, that's a separate thing. This is just the Superman books. Why was this a fantastic deal? $50 US, $70 Canadian. And this is just, sorry, let me tell you which ones. Issues 25 through 29 of Superman. So this is all Golden Age stuff from the 40s. A lot of times, stuff you'd see on the cover, like here he's fighting a Nazi. It's not actually in the book. It was just sort of to show, hey, Superman's patriotic by Superman Comics. The art and stories is very much of the 40s. That said, I do think this art is pretty solid, especially compared to the earlier volumes of the Superman archives. I've got Volume 1 and Volume 5. The art here is so much better. So yeah, it's really cool to have these as these nice reprinted hardcovers. And that actually leads me into my next book, which is also a hardcover DC archive for the Golden Age Starman. This is volume 2. I got this one. This is actually part of the set from Boomer the Nerd. So I thank him again because, okay, I love Starman. I got hooked on the Jack Knight version by James Robinson from the mid 90s, the Post Zero Hour. Such a good book, such a good book. Um, so I love the character. I love the JSA. What's unfortunate here is you can see, first of all, Adventure collects his stories from Adventure Comics issues 77 through 102. You'd think, wow, that's a lot, right? But look, at the time, so you had the Jack Kirby redesigned Sandman, where he's more of a superhero as opposed to the original one where he had the gas mask. And then you had the Paul Kirk Manhunter. So the Sandman one was definitely the most popular, and then the Manhunter one. And then, kind of as an afterthought, you also got starring Starman. So the stories are very short. Unfortunately, they're more like backup stories. There is some good stuff in here. I think the first one features the Mist. Yeah, you can see him there, who's a great villain, as well as Dr. Phosphorus for the Ted Knight Starman, and whose daughter becomes a significant threat and a very complicated situation for his son Jack Knight in the that mid 90s Starman series I was telling you about. So yeah, more Golden Age silliness. I mean, if you look at this, this is basically Superman's costume with a different logo and different colors. Okay, so my next set is DC's Metal, not the Death Metal, the original series by Scott Snyder. And as you can see, I've got the whole event here, but I collected it in the different trades. Honestly, it costs about the same as the omnibus would have, like when it goes on sale. And reading this the way it was intended to be read, because Snyder wrote most of he wrote the main series and he wrote a lot of the tie-ins and stuff like that as well. So there's definitely a mapping order on which issue you should read. And I did hear that in the omnibus, it is collected in order. Whereas here, it's like, okay, so I read The Road to Metal, then I read Metal issue 1, then I go into Dark Knight's Rising and read like the first two about the evil Batman. Then I go back here and read issue 3 and 4. Then I read The Resistance, and it's like it's a pain in the ass to read it properly with the real mapping like this. So I decided the sequel, Dark Knight's Metal, or Death Metal, I should say, I'm definitely going the omnibus route. And speaking of that, in what is officially the biggest book I own, I think they said this weighs 11 pounds or something. It's like, what, 1,500 pages? Insane. Justice League Dark by starting with James Tynion for the first half, and then he kind of started working with Scott Snyder, and Ram V took over to do the remainder of the series. So after after Dark Knight Metal, the thing I just showed off, there was an event called like No Future or something. Anyways, there was a 4-issue miniseries that kind of split up the Justice League in kind of a new direction going forward. Wonder Woman joined the Justice League Dark because she is kind of magical, supernatural based. So, first of all, I thought that was a cool idea. Um, and then there was Justice League Odyssey, and it felt like I only read the first trade. It felt like they were trying to redo Cosmic Odyssey from like the late 80s, early 90s, where a bunch of heroes have to work with Darkseid to stop something from destroying the universe. Same thing with Justice League Odyssey. Although it did have Azrael from the Batman books, Azrael in space, so that's kind of weird. Um, the reps on here, so it's hard to read. So this has Justice League Dark number 1 through 29, annual number 1, uh, Justice League Annual 2021 number 1, Justice League Dark Wonder Woman The Witching Hour number 1, Aquaman, Volume 8, number 66, Black Adam Endless Winter Special, The Flash, issue number 600 or 767, sorry, 777 through 779, Justice League Volume 4, number 58 and 72 through 74, Justice League Endless Winter number 1 and 2, Superman Endless Winter Special number 1, Teen Titans Endless Winter Special number 1, Wonder Woman Volume 5, issues number 56, 57, Wonder Woman Justice League Dark, The Witching Hour number 1, and stories from Justice League Volume 4, number 59 through 71, Future State Justice League 1 and 2, and Streets of Sinister House number 1. Okay, so the part at the end there where it says it collects Justice League 59 through 71, that's the point where Tinian moved off this book and onto the main Justice League title, and so Ram V picked up afterwards, and I heard his work was really good on this. I don't know much. I've heard it is a lot better than the new 52 version of the team, which I thought was still really good. So this is actually the first DC omnibus I've got, if you don't count the ones from like the 2010s where they put out those Jack Kirby ones and the Starman ones where they said omnibus, but it was really small. And like I said, I've never had anything this thick before.
That's what she said.
I picked this up, crazy price, reading about it, find out it's said after that, no future or whatever. And I had asked people, should I read that before this? And they said, not essential, but is definitely recommended. And I love DC for their events. If nothing else, I like to collect their events and trades and hardcovers. So, I know everything in this and basically Scott Snyder's entire Justice League run, all is leading to death metal. So I got this. But then I also just picked up the first volume, Scott Snyder, James Tynion, Justice League number 1. Now, unfortunately, the sticker covering some of that stuff, but it collects Aquaman 41 through 42, Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth number 1, Justice League 1 through 18, Justice League Annual number 1, Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth number 1, Justice League No Justice 1 through 4, and something from DC Nation number 0. They really put that sticker in the worst spot. This book was originally solicited as containing the Batman Who Laughs miniseries. Unfortunately, it had to come out before somebody could actually report that, no, that's not in here, and they did confirm it for Volume 2, which I hope, because I'd hate to have to buy another book. It's one of the reasons I waited for the omnibus for this set, because I was looking at, okay, Road to Death Metal, what am I going to need? I'm going to need the DC No Future, Justice League No Future, whatever. I'm going to need the Batman Who Laughs. I'm going to want to read at least a couple of the Scott Snyder volumes, especially introducing Perpetua or whatever her name is. So I'll look at a mapping order, even though I'm not even going to open these two until I get the second and final volume of this. And I'm looking forward to it. If anybody is watching this and actually has an opinion on it, let me know. Next, we're going into the Green Lantern Jeff Johns Omnibus Volume 1. As you can see, not nearly as thick. And this one, it just collects the Green Lantern Rebirth miniseries, the Green Lantern Corps Recharge miniseries, Green Lantern 1 through 25, which takes you from the beginning up through the very end of the Sinestro Corps War, Green Lantern Corps number 14 through 18, Tales of the Sinestro Corps Superman Prime, Green Lantern Sinestro Corps Special, Secret Files and Origins. It doesn't have every single tie-in. I think there's a couple more. Unfortunately, I've decided to go the omnibus route, and I kind of made that decision before I found out the Green Lantern compendiums, which are a collection of all the Green Lantern stuff from that era, not just like this is specifically Jeff Johns branded. because at the time you had Howard Chaykin wrote and drew a Green Lantern Guy Gardner story. Kyle Rayner, under the hands of creator Ron Mars, had an Ion miniseries that kind of the plot lines of which carry over into Sinestro Corps. So I might have already committed with this. I'll get the next two. The reason I got this is because I have all the hardcovers of this except for Sinestro Corps War Volume 2. I don't know why. And they're almost as thick as this. And the cost to just get Sinestro Corps Volume 2 is so expensive that I figured I'll get this and then I'll try to flip the original hardcovers and try to make some money back. Amazing, amazing storyline. He changed Green Lantern forever, but not just that. Jeff Johns made me care about Hal Jordan. I didn't care before. I thought Kyle Rayner was the best, followed by John Stewart, Guy Gardner. I never really cared for Hal, but this story made his run on the character made me actually a huge fan. And matter of fact, the same thing with the Flash. I love Wally West. Okay, that's my Flash. I grew up reading the Wally West Flash comics. So, I mean, Wally's my guy. But with Green Lantern, or sorry, with the Flash Rebirth and then the subsequent Flash stories he wrote, he made me a huge Barry fan. So that's a testament to his writing and ultimately the strength of the character, I guess, for being so enduring. And this is the final omnibus from DC. Superman the Exile and Other Stories Omnibus. Okay, so this stuff takes place immediately after John Byrne left the Superman titles. One of the last things John Byrne did, he wrote a storyline where, because they didn't want a multiverse at the time, so it was some weird pocket dimension. But Superman had gone into a pocket dimension and he found a universe that was basically dead. The three Kryptonian supercriminals, including General Zod, had basically obliterated all life from that universe, and now they were looking to come through to ours. And so Superman had to use kryptonite from their universe, which he was immune to. He had to use their universe's kryptonite to basically poison and kill them. Now, this caused a huge emotional trauma for Superman. Even to this day, like he still talks like that's one of the few times in any content, well, not Injustice, but in the main continuity, this is like one of like two times that Superman's actually killed. Like it's a big deal. Um so because of that, he decided to go into a self-imposed exile, needing time to chill out and stuff. A lot of big stuff happened during this. He met the cleric who told him about the origins of Krypton. This has Superman, or rather, I should say, it starts with Adventures Superman 445 through 460, Superman 23 through 37, Action Comics 643 through 646, Action Comics Annual Number 2. The very first comic book I ever got, and I was 5 years old, and it was a Superman book, is collected in here. These stories mean something to me. This whole era of Superman, I have a strong affinity and fondness for. I don't have the John Byrne stuff because the hardcovers are out of print and expensive. And I know it's going to be one of those things where as soon as I get them all, they're going to announce an omnibus printing that'll be like a fraction of the cost. This is kind of the stuff that made me love Superman and almost comics in general. Like I was on a road trip and I guess I was being fussy or something, and so the parents wanted to shut me up, so they stopped at a gas station or whatever, got me the Superman book, and I was 5. I couldn't understand it, but I looked at the pictures till that thing fell apart. I've since rebought a copy of it just to have for nostalgic purposes. So they're going to be filling out the rest of the Superman run from the 90s, which I'm so excited about. So there's the John Byrne stuff, which is not an omnibus. John Byrne followed by this. After this comes the recently solicited Superman Brainiac Returns. Then you go into the 2 already available Superman the Triangle Years, Volume 1 and 2, and then straight into the Superman Doomsday event, the Death and Return of Superman omnibus. Essentially, you've got the first 10 years of Superman almost. Once that other one comes out, almost the entire thing is collected in nice reprints. So, like I said, this is my era of Superman. The fact that one of the first stories I uh, read, one of my first Superman stories was drawn by Jerry Ordway, who is a fantastic artist, but I feel legendary Superman artist. I think that's why maybe I like my characters to look a little more. I mean, I'm not going to say this is realistic, but compared to what was starting to come out at the time in the late 80s, early 90s, that's when Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee were starting to get really big with, their overblown muscles and all the detail and all the pouches and stuff. So I still, yeah, this is probably my favorite era of Superman, but I like them all really. And to finally end it, I have to image the Ghost Machine imprint, which is the one that was started by Jeff Johns and Brian Hitch and Jason Fabok and a bunch of other creators, writers, and artists. And the whole idea is they create, they own everything, but basically they can't work for anybody else. Like, if you're working in comics, your goal is to build this universe. Now, as I understand it, there are kind of like, there's a shared universe aspect, but there's also some standalone books. I think there's one called Brook, which is like a science fiction book. It looks really cool, but I don't think it ties into the main uh, Ghost Machine verse or whatever. So this is the first book. It's written by Jeff Johns, art by Gary Frank. So the art is amazing, and the storytelling is going to be top notch. Like all these books, you'll see I have yet to remove the plastic. That's how you know I'm a true omnibus collector, because I get these books in and I never touch them. They ask you, what's your favorite way to read omnibus? I read the spine through the plastic as it sits on my shelf. So this is about some guy who becomes radioactive. The guy's name is actually Geiger. Um, he becomes radioactive, so he's trying to figure out what's going on. Who is the glowing man? This collects Geiger 1 through 6 and the Geiger 80-page giant. I think the normal soft cover of this also collects those, but these have sketches and some other crap. And this is the largest book I've ever had, like in terms of physical dimensions. So you saw the Superman book, right? And it's like, oh, it's significantly larger, right? So that's a huge book. Which is great because Gary Frank's artwork is fantastic, and to see all the line work up close and all the detail and stuff. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And then the other one, also by Jeff Johns, also by Ghost Machine, also by Gary Frank, is Junkyard Joe. Now, I assume this is kind of, they're trying to do like a GI Robot, like DC has, who you can actually see in the that Creature Commandos HBO Max series they put out not too long ago. So same thing, Junkyard Joe 1 through 6, but it's going to be full of a lot of supplemental special features and stuff. I think there's already Geiger 2 out, or they're going to solicit it soon. There's some like colonial looking thing with Brian Hitch as the artist. It looks cool. I don't know if it's some kind of like Revolutionary War spy thriller. I don't know, but you know what? I trust all the creators with this group. Like, I think Jeff Johns is easily the best working writer in comics. So, anyways, there you go. That's all the different books that I got throughout the year of 2025. Some from the dollar store, some from a friend, most through Amazon, but some through a pawn shop too. So, um, I would never have expected to find books at a pawn shop, but here I did. So you know what? That's another place for you guys to check if you're looking for some cool stuff, because you never know. At the very least, I'm sure there's a wall of Funko Pops for you to look at. At the shop I had, it was insane. And let me know if there's any stories here that you like, any must reads or whatever, and hopefully I will be able to start doing reviews for some of these. Like I said, though, the Scott Snyder stuff, I'm gonna wait for the second volume to go on sale so I can buy it, and then I'm gonna start to read the whole thing. But the Ghost Machine stuff, I've already read some of the DC Compact, very good. I've read all the Dark Knight's Metal stuff and tie-ins, so I still got a lot to cover because I still got the Green Lantern, I've still got the Superman, I've still got, so this is what I got through 2025, and it might take me through 2026 to actually read it all. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.